Hi and welcome back to Finding Stillness. It has been a while, and if you're here again, thank you for coming back. If you're here for the first time, welcome. This space has always mainly been about stillness, softness, gentle truths, trying to navigate your way through your own life and your journey. But sometimes I think I forget how to do that, forget to sit in that stillness and how to speak about how I feel. So this episode is more about coming back, not with answers, not with clarity, but more with honesty. I haven't felt like myself in a while, and maybe you know the feeling when your days are kind of blurred together, when your thoughts feel distant, and when you go quiet even in your own head. This episode is not about fixing that, it's about naming it, being in that moment, and maybe following what makes your heart beat a little faster, not with fear but with awe. Take a moment and let's begin. The unfamiliar self. There are days when I stop and I ask myself quietly, and without drama, where did I go? I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, getting up, responding to messages, meeting my responsibilities. I smile when I need to, I participate in conversations. But beneath all of it, there's that subtle dissonance, like I'm living beside my life rather than inside it. I used to feel rooted, grounded in something familiar. I knew my pace, my patterns, my preferences. But lately, I feel like I'm hovering just above my own skin, watching, not quite participating, not disconnected enough to fall apart, but not fully engaged either. It's not necessarily sadness, it's not even burnout, though it sometimes flirts with that. It's more like a quiet disorientation, that feeling of being muted. It's hard to explain this to people, because from the outside I seem fine, and maybe I am, on the surface, but deep down there's that stillness that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unknown, and I definitely don't think it's uncommon. I think so many of us experience these stretches of emotional in-betweens, the fog that comes between who we were and who we might be becoming. It's not that something dramatic that kind of happens overnight. It's that we've quietly shifted without noticing, and one day we realize we are no longer feeling fully familiar to ourselves. And then there's that question that lingers. Am I trying to get back to the version of myself I knew? Or am I meant to become someone new? That's the tension, isn't it? Wanting that comfort of knowing while standing on the edge of change. And I'm not sure which way I'm moving either. But here's what I'm learning. You can't think your way out of this. You can't force clarity into the fog. What helped me and is helping me instead is starting small, paying attention to anything that makes me feel awake and alive, curious, moved, the tiniest flicker of aliveness. Sometimes that's where all begins, in those gentle sparks that whisper, "You are still here," and that whisper, however faint, can be the beginning of finding your way back. So what do I mean by chasing all? I believe it's a quiet compass. All, in my opinion, is not loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It's quiet, almost shy. It appears softly, without needing to be named. It's that moment you stop scrolling and feel something catch in your chest. It's the sight of the morning light spilling through your curtains in a way that it has never done before. It's the colour of the sky at dusk, when everything glows for no reason at all. I used to think awe was something reserved for big, cinematic moments, sunrises over mountaintops, long-awaited achievements, once-in-a-lifetime experiences. But lately I realized awe is everywhere. It's in the ordinary if you let it be. Awe has become my quiet compass. When I feel far from myself, when the fog is too thick to push through, awe becomes the thread I follow, not because it solves anything, but because it shifts something inside of me. There's something about noticing beauty that feels entirely unnecessary, and yet completely essential. When you've been moving through your days in the grey scale, awe is that subtle reminder that colour still exists, that you can still feel. I'm chasing awe not aggressively, but deliberately. I gave myself permission to pause when something catches my eye. I let myself stare a little longer. I listen more deeply, reread lines that makes my breath hitch. I step outside at night just to feel the cool air. These moments don't erase the fog, but they do something just as important. They remind me I'm still in here, that something inside me still notices, still responds, still softens. And that's everything in my opinion, because when you feel distant from yourself, awe can be the first step towards remembering. It doesn't pull you out of the dark, but it hands you a lantern. It reminds you that the self you've been missing isn't gone. She's just been waiting for a moment quiet enough, beautiful enough, tender enough to say, I'm still here. And that's when you start to believe it too. Becoming someone new and letting the old self rest. Here's something I've been learning, slowly, quietly, and I'm still learning. As I move through this fog, I notice and understand that not every part of me is meant to come back. There's a version of me created for survival. She was strong. She kept me afloat when things were heavy. She said yes when I wanted to say no, because she thought keeping the peace was safer than being seen. She kept smiling through discomfort, pushed forward through exhaustion, and molded herself into the expectations of others to stay connected. And now, she's tired. She did that well, but I've come to realize she didn't need to carry everything anymore. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with growing. You start to understand that some of the things that once defined you no longer fit. It's not about erasing the past. It's more about allowing those pieces of you to rest, with gratitude and with reverence. Because when we talk about the feeling like ourselves again, we often forget the self isn't a single, fixed version frozen in time. It evolves, it does deepen, it stretches and softens. So maybe I'm not finding my way back at all. Maybe I'm moving forward towards someone I've never fully met, and that is scary. To become unfamiliar to yourself, to not quite know who you are becoming. But it's also deeply freeing, because within that not knowing, there's room for curiosity. There's a space to ask, gently, what do I need now? What makes me feel alive now? Who am I when I'm not performing who I used to be? Stillness has helped me begin to meet those new parts of me, not with criticism, not with fear, but like an old friend meeting a newer version of herself for the first time. Kind of like that trend that I really like, the I'm meeting my younger self for coffee. You're meeting yourself for the first time, awkwardly at first, but with kindness. You don't have to go back to who you were just to feel like you're okay. You can grow into someone softer, stronger, wiser, and still be who you are. And maybe, just maybe, in that becoming, your own company will start to feel like home again. Not because everything is clear, but because you're showing up honestly and gently to yourself. So here I am. No neat conclusion, no ribbon to tie this episode together, just a soft landing back into myself. And maybe that's all I needed today. If you're here too, if you've been floating through your own fog, unsure whether you're returning or transforming, I hope you leave this space with a little more gentleness for yourself and your process. You don't have to have the answer. You don't have to know where you're going next. Sometimes being here in the moment is the most honest thing you can do for you. Or might not fix the heaviness. It's not clear every path, but it can light a moment. And sometimes one illuminated moment is enough to keep walking. So start with the small things, a breeze, a breath, a glimpse of beauty that pulls you into the present. Just for a second, let that be enough. You don't have to chase the clarity. You don't have to chase yourself. Just notice what moves and follow that. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. And I'll be here whenever you need a quiet place to land again. Take one breath with me. Hold it and let it go. Until next time, keep choosing softness, keep choosing presence, and above all, stay gentle.